Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome back to Real World Magic, where we make your life more magical. My name is Neil Trigger, I'm going to be your magical host, and today I'm really excited because I'm going to be delivering a video that I've been preparing for over a year. This time last year I was covering stuff in plaster of Paris and making concrete pumpkins and stuff like that, and it just didn't really work. So what I decided to do was to kind of step away from that, regroup, try and work out a different way of doing it, and today we're going to be making this. It's a display of pumpkins. Believe it or not, these are fake, but I'll show you how to make them look realistic so that you can decorate your house for autumn, October, or even Halloween. If you want to make these more magical looking, then watch out for next week's video where we're going to actually animate them and get them to talk. Yeah, you heard that right.
Project their faces onto actual uncarved pumpkins for a truly three-dimensional effect.
So I'd just like to say, I'm really sorry. I wanted to get this video out earlier. Now this time last year I had pumpkins in my kitchen being covered in plaster bandages. I was trying to make pumpkins out of concrete, which although it worked, if they fell off the wall onto your head, you would die. So what I wanted to do is to make something completely hollow, fairly lightweight, that could hang on the wall, and if it fell off or broke or anything, it wouldn't be too much of a problem, and then you could make more very cheaply, very easily, make them look realistic, and you can also reuse them as well. So what I wanted to do is to make something that's completely hollow, and so this is what I did. I started out with 2 buckets just like this, fill one with corn flour, you'll see why in a minute, and bathroom silicone. Now you'll see here that I'm really going to town on squeezing this stuff out. I worked out eventually that if you don't want a massive workout, you just chop off the tip to make it a little bit bigger, and it made subsequent tubes a lot easier. This is 100% bathroom silicone or 100% silicone, which means that when you mix it with water like this, it activates it, so it will set. It's not particularly quick to set, but once you've got the glob of it, you dip it in the corn flour, that takes away its tackiness, and effectively you turn this into a kind of dough. So every time it gets tacky, you just dip it back into the corn flour, and you might want gloves for this. It does stink of acetic acid, so it releases acetic acid, which is kind of like a vinegary smell, and it will make your eyes sting if it's not well ventilated. Once you've got this dough onto your pumpkin, and bear in mind it's not food grade silicone, so this will make your pumpkin inedible. But once you've got it onto your pumpkin, then just make sure that you get into all of the nooks and crannies to get a really good finish on the final mould. Just leave that on there for a bit. Make sure you go all the way to just beyond halfway. And I didn't show it on the footage because I think actually I lost my footage, but I reinforce the outside with plaster bandages just to make sure it doesn't deform when I'm doing this stage, which is pressing the other plaster bandages onto the inside. Effectively, you're making a rubber sandwich with plaster on either side of it. So get some plaster bandages, chop them up into little manageable pieces, get a bowl of water, wet the plaster bandages, and just use it a bit like papier-mâché. So if you do like a paper-mâché kind of thing, but with plaster bandages, make sure they're fairly thick as well. Now this is what I meant about the outside shell. So this is what I used just to make sure that the rubber itself didn't deform when I was pressing into it. Just get rid of that one and take off the rubber shell, obviously allowing time for each layer to set. I normally do that overnight. Leaves this beautiful pumpkin. Isn't nature wonderful? Clear it up a little bit. Sometimes if it is soft, then you're able to do that with your fingers. Now, when I said clear it up or tidy it up a little bit, we just need to make sure that those jagged edges are flat. And the best way to do that is with water. Water always wants to find a natural level, so add some paint to that and mix it all in, and then it makes that lovely level just there. So it's not a particularly obvious line, so I went over it with a pencil, grab a pencil, and then just draw along that line there. And that way then you know where to cut. So that's going to be the next stage. If you're not already an adult, get an adult to help you because this is potentially dangerous. I use a lot of protective equipment. You can't see it on here, but I do have goggles and a dust mask on. So just trim that using an angle grinder or a saw or something. Now it will also, because it is plaster bandages and not just plaster, it will need a bit of tidying up afterwards with some scissors. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just trim off all of those extra raggedy bits, and then it's time to mark up the wood. Now you can see here I'm starting to clamp it to the table just to make sure it doesn't move around a bit, and then just trim it roughly to size. It doesn't need to be accurate at this point, but you will need to tidy it up a bit later on. What I decided to do, because my pumpkins were going to eventually talk, is I wanted them to kind of look a bit haunted, and so I just eyeballed it and tried to do it a little bit off centre, a little bit wonky, and just see if I could make something that looks a bit rickety, I guess. Unfortunately, I didn't really like the look of it. So what you'll see right now is me trying to correct my deliberate mistake. Initially I start by filing it down and just think, no, I'm going to need to do something a bit more dramatic. I guess out my speed square, start marking up a few bits and bobs and try and square off the thing that I deliberately messed up. I'm not sure this entirely worked, and if I had my time again, I probably wouldn't cut it wonky in the first place. But, you know, you live and learn. I make these mistakes so you guys don't have to. So once you've finished cutting the wood and you're happy with the size and shape of it, it's time to go back inside and work again on the pumpkins and finish everything off. On this stage I get out some poly filler or any kind of masonry filler and just tidy this up a little bit because there are a few moulding defects on there. I just use my finger just to smooth things out a little bit and just make sure that the finish is really nice. Now unfortunately at this point I was cursing a little bit because I'd actually dented that last pumpkin that you can see me now amending, and so I needed to sort that out a little bit as well. Just add a little bit of adhesive here. I'm using a kind of no more nails kind of glue, or a liquid nails I think they call it. It's from a hardware store anyway. Just go all around there and be very, very careful with it because this stuff does stick like crazy. You may have seen a blue flash earlier. That was my beautiful wife Laura bringing me some kitchen towel just to tidy things up a little bit. Just make sure that you get off as much of that as you possibly can, but obviously leave enough on there so that it's pretty solid. It's taken quite a lot of time to get here, but it's my favourite stage of the painting. Paint the stems a fairly dark green. All of the colours are going to be down in the description. And then go for an orange. Now I started off quite dark on here, but I eventually lightened it up. Now the good thing about it being white plaster is that it does take colour really, really easily. So I watered down this orange an awful lot and it still looked really good. That then allowed me to do lots of different layers. Darkening it, especially around the stem, dry brushing it, getting right into all of the nooks and crannies with some inks, and I used kitchen towel quite a lot to wipe off the colours as well. I mixed up a lighter colour. Again, all of the colours are going to be in the description there. Although you can see a glass of water, I didn't really use it to wash out my brush, I used it to water down the paint. This is the final product. Watch out for next week's video where we make them talk, sing and tell jokes, but until then, thanks very much for watching. Give us a big thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe for more of the same, click the bell button to be notified, tell your friends, tell everyone, hire a skywriter or something, and until next time, stay magical.